you get my email?
Yes, I did, thank you. Is Susan coming tonight or is she?
No.
Oh, okay.
She's in
I'd get that today, so.
I appreciate it.
DC.
Okay.
Yeah, as they said, they're ready to go.
I want you to see these.
Type them all down, so they're good to go. I guess he came in today, and I was training, so he's gonna come back Wednesday and talk to him in the morning.
Order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, a roll call. Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Susan's not here tonight. We'll have a motion for that in a second. Ms. Gelbaugh.
Here.
Dr. Lewis.
Here.
Mrs. Rankin.
Here.
Mr. York.
Here.
All right, a motion and a second to excuse Susan Brown Knight.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis. Aye. Ms. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, before we get started here tonight, on a sort of sad note, I would like to mark the passing of Sharon Beavis.
Oh.
Yeah. Over the weekend. She was an active member of the community. She served on council from 1982 through 1989. She was a trustee of MPF. She was a school teacher at the second grade teacher at the elementary school. In fact, she was my son's second grade teacher. Just a beloved character, to say the least. I just think whenever I think of her, I just think of, you know, she really embodied the best of, you know, what we could be. So let's have a moment of silence, please. Right.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, the minutes. Any questions regarding the minutes? And I believe we have the September the 26th minutes and the minutes from October the 3rd. Any questions, any changes, comments? All right, hearing none, could I have a motion in a second, please?
So moved. Second.
Second. Mr. Bartlett?
I need to abstain for the September 26th. I was not here, but I will vote aye on the October 3rd meeting then.
Okay, okay. Do you have that? All right. Ms. Skelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right. All right, in communications tonight, we have Assistant Fire Chief Dan Copeland with us, his monthly report. Dan, anything to add? Looks like you've been a little busy.
Yeah. I think all the festivals and all the hard work that council's been doing to bring people in has definitely worked out in our range. Planned it out, had a lot of opportunities to meet with a lot of nice people, and we thank you guys for that opportunity as well, so, thank you.
Any questions for Dan? No? No?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, we have the service report from Service Superintendent, Mr. Scherpenberg. John, any remarks?
We're just looking at different ways for the lease season. Talked to Allison today to put out a little letter in Town Crier and that. But I'm meeting with Hafner's on Thursday. But what we're thinking about doing is maybe opening up the South 80 and have an area where people can come and dump their leaves in a specific area. And then once everything is done, we'll go down and start sucking up those leaves and haul them down to Hafner so we get credit for it for our Hamilton County.
Okay, so this would be
Recycling.
residents that could take their
They
leaves
can
down
take
there?
their leaves
And
down,
What
or
about landscapers?
Landscapers can drop their leaves off there as long as it's strictly leaves and stuff and not mixed with anything.
Okay.
We'll go that route and look at that. Maybe that'll take the load off
Okay,
with us going around.
yeah.
So, and then that way we can continue mulching the leaves in the parks and stuff like that every couple of weeks or something, go that route.
Okay,
So-
is this in the works? I mean, is this something that we
Yeah, I was
should be
talking to
put-
Kelly today. I've talked to a couple residents who were wanting to know if there was a way that the village could provide bags for the residents. And then that's something they can do. They could take their bags down there. I've got a call in to Rumpke to see if we were to go to all bags, if there would be a way that we can work out a deal with them. So I'm looking at different options.
As
that we can-
opposed to the yard waste bins.
Yes, so, and then that way, we can help out, pick up bags, and then go there. So that's one thing I want to test with Justin down at Hafner to see if they would take bags
Yeah.
if we went that route.
Okay.
That way, we still get credit for the dumping
Yeah.
and recycling of the leaves for our recycling program.
But residents could just rake them into a large tarp and take them down there and,
Yeah, or so if they know somebody's got a pickup truck or a trailer, they can put them in and haul it down
Okay.
there and dump them.
yeah.
But we'll have a specific area for them, and then we
Okay.
can go. And what I'm looking at doing is taking our trucks, instead of driving all the way down to Hafner,
Sure, yeah.
and have to fight the traffic and really get it done.
Right, right.
Sometimes that gets a little hectic and tires get flat and stuff like that. That we'll just go to the South 80, dump them down there, and then later on, when leaf season's over with, we can start hauling to Hafner at that point, re-pick them up and then do it that way. I know it's a
Okay, so,
double work,
yeah,
but,
we'd have to re-pick them up.
yeah, but I'm looking at the productivity part of it. They don't have
To
to drive
save
as far,
the drive time and the.
and then that can save probably about a half hour.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
time-wise, per truck.
Okay.
So right now, after they pick them up and the truck is full, you go to Hafner's?
Yes.
Period.
So then they get out of the truck, they go in, and they get a ticket, and then they have to drive in the back area wherever they have their piles. So after a while, of rain and all that stuff, that can get kind of messy, and
So this would,
sometimes you have to wait with the other landscapers that are
Right.
dumping. So in order to cut time and cost, it's not really cost, but more time, and improve the productivity, we can just go to South 80, dump them. That way, if somebody down the South 80 wants them for their gardens, we've had a few people that I asked for them
yeah.
last year.
Well, and then it saves you so many trips to Hafner.
Right, but we don't want to do a compost type thing, because then we have to get into EPA rules and regulations, that kind of thing. So what
Right,
we'll do
and
is
God
resuck
only
them
knows
back
what
up
people
when we got
cost.
time afterwards, and then rehaul them, that way we get credit for all that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But just a couple of different things we're looking at. We went to all bags, and Rumpke's willing to work with us on picking them up. You know, we can just take regular trucks around, throw them in the back of the trucks, and if Hafner's lets us take the bags, then that'll work out as well. That way, we can reduce Rumpke's, maybe, I don't know if that'll reduce any of their cost or not, but, because that's in the contract, but, you know, that's another option we can look at as far as that goes. Because it's easier to throw bags in than it is to suck
Pick them up, dump them, and put them
And
back.
that way, if people mix them, well, you know, if they're too heavy, we won't pick them up, but other than that, so.
Yeah, just so everybody's clear, though, we're talking about the brown paper bag. We're not talking about
Correct.
plastic bags.
No,
Right.
not plastic,
Yeah.
not plastic, all brown bags.
Okay.
So,
I mean, plastic's out, period.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Okay.
I know people have already started dumping them in the street and stuff. But,
Yeah.
So we're trying to tell them, hey, we're not there till the 24th. We'll start that week.
Okay.
And go there.
Well, it's
So-
John,
important.
can
Worth a try.
residents take bags down too?
Yes,
Yeah,
so there's
so-
already a guy that I talked to today that's been dumping down there because he heard it was a compost they had built down there.
In the South Eight.
Yeah, so he dumps them down there and takes his bags back home. And then
Okay, that
nice.
was,
once the bags are bad, then he gets rid of the bags. But
Okay,
and I said, well, they don't really compost there. We have to pick it up and take it to Hafner's anyway. That's
But you-
because they dump everything in that area, so,
You can't dump the bag, you have to empty the bag.
yes. So that's why I'm gonna check with Justin to find out. If he can take the bags, because they're biodegradable, then we can just leave it as is. But we prefer the loose stuff down there for the vacs to pick up, so.
oh, sure, then you don't
And that
want to,
way, you know, people are complaining about the cost of the bags, they can save their bags, go down there and dump it, or use
Use
one
them
of
a
them.
couple times, yeah.
Or use their trash cans or the yard waste containers, fill them up and take them down, so. So we're looking at different ideas.
Yeah, just good old tarps work too. You can get a lot of leaves in an old tarp.
Back of a Mercedes-Benz, I hear, has got a lot of space.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's actually,
They make
think-
they make a special one just for
but I
that.
think the Mercedes actually has hooks that you can
Yeah,
attach
that's
the
what I've
tarp
heard.
to.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so that's
that's
what
what I'm thinking.
we're looking at.
All right,
so.
sounds good. Any other questions for John about?
When, and we're stopping the mowing, when do we stop in that?
Well, it'll be at the end of November, because what happens is with the
But it's getting more spread out now,
luminary,
right?
yeah, we're not gonna do weekly. We'll just try to hit the parks every other week just to keep the leaves down so that they're not blowing in other people's yards and stuff.
Okay.
So we'll put on the mulching or, we're gonna try to look at getting 2 bags to put on back of the new motors, see what the cost is. But and that way we can do the islands and clean those up nicer and they don't have it blown all over the place like the other ones did, so.
Okay.
I hate to almost ask this. Well, I have to because I've been getting all kinds of questions. Where are we on the mole situation at the
We are still working on that. With the race this
Where?
past weekend and
at
stuff
the
like that.
bell tower?
We've got somebody that's gonna come in and use some natural stuff to help get the moles out of there.
You know, we don't
I thought we were
put
gonna
pesticides down, you know, to kill the
We,
grubs.
you know, we did it, years ago, we did it with the grub X and all that and got them out of the parks, but the problem was they still kept coming in. When I talked to Ohio State University, they said, well, you have worms in there, and so when you kill their source of the grubs, they come back in for the earthworms. So you're almost doing that. So there's some natural stuff that we can use that seem to be working, so we're gonna try using some of that, so. Hopefully this week.
Yeah, okay.
I know, I just keep having the decision of Bill Murray in my head.
I know, the one guy's.
Yeah, I know,
emailed
I'm
us.
chuckling, but it is a problem. I mean, it can really,
Yeah, well.
yeah, I get, yeah. All right, that sounds good. Thank you, John.
Under the ground.
Yeah. All right, we have the report from Chuck Barlow. Any questions? Chuck, any comments to make? Looks like
Still running up about 5%.
Cent.
I just wonder how you come up with your projections.
Well,
I mean, is there,
It's got an algorithm.
I keep it usually flat. I think the most conservative way to go, if we're gonna go, would be either flat or up 1% every
Okay.
year, because you don't wanna jump up. It's easier to add than trying to take
Right,
back,
right.
so. But yeah, usually about 1%, and so we're projecting 2.6 this year. If we hold trend we're going, we'll do about 2.750.
Excuse me.
As long as the bottom doesn't drop out, so.
Sorry about your sleeve.
This month actually is going pretty good so far, we're only 10 days in, so.
Yeah. All right, well, that's good to hear. All right. Any other questions? Rob?
Nope.
You good?
No, we're good trending. It was looking
Good,
good.
that's a good trend. Going the right way for once. Yeah. All right, permission to address council. Mr. Rich?
No. They're observing. They're here to watch, here to watch your oratory skills.
You're going to be disappointed.
They are.
My name is Robert Rich. I live at 6925 Crystal Springs, and I'm also a member of the Planning Commission. And I'm here to talk to you about Sanctuary Cove, which has come before the Planning Commission last week. in the submittal for a PUD, or the developer has applied for approval of a PUD for the project. I did a review of the project before the meeting, which at least one member of council has that review, my review. I did the review because nobody else was doing a review of the project, and there are as many residences being proposed down there as there are residences between Dogwood Park and the pool on Mariemont Avenue. So it's not insignificant, 19 residences. And I'm not a NIMBY, and I'm actually an advocate of greater density because I think it enhances the walkability of Mariemont. And my review was not intended to be a critique of the project. My review was information, because we really, at least, had not received any information except this application, which had in some instances had very little information in the way of dimensions, and also it had very little information about the actual finishes and of the buildings themselves, nor until the meeting was there any material that really showed the entire development in its entirety. And Rod had said he was ceding leadership on this action, on this, to Bob Van Stone, who's the president, or the,
Chair.
what's it called?
Chair.
Chair of the Planning Commission. And he said he was going to let the Planning Commission do their thing before he actually, and quite frankly, I mean, both as a resident and a member of the Planning Commission, I have no expectation that our part-time building department could actually execute what I would consider a pretty thorough review of that project. I'm an architect, sort of retired. During my practice, my 50 years of practice, I was also a member of the Congress of New Urbanism, which promotes walkability in environments, and it promotes actually that new development should be more mixed use. It should be something that somebody doesn't have to, get in a car or train or whatever in order to really enjoy where they live. So I just want to make it clear that my review was not a critique. My review was really to understand the project and to convey that to other members of the Planning Commission, and again, not because I oppose the project in any way. If any of you are interested in that review, I did bring some paper copies if you wish to have them. So.
Thank you, sir.
I have one. I saved it on my computer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll ask you, I'm prepared to do what I think is a pretty quick synopsis of this review, if you would like me to.
If, I'm going to ask if you want to do that to, yes, brevity being.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to be here 2.5 hours. And I think that
It's important.
if
it's
you
important
want
and it's
me to
worthwhile.
do it, I
Yes,
could
it's
probably do it in about 5 minutes without questions.
I'm up for listening to it.
It's just that, we have the rule about you're supposed to be 3 minutes only. That's the
minutes,
norm, is the
It's up
rule.
to you.
This is an important project, and, I do think that the, level of your knowledge and whatnot, Bob, just please.
Yeah. I mean, I got the impression that the council was not very aware of what was being proposed. I just had that
Well, until I
impression.
was there the other night, I
And maybe
didn't
I'm
know.
wrong.
Yeah.
And even in the meeting that both Kelly and Randy attended, I mean, you guys both had to get out of there, obviously. It was taking a long time, and it was probably
You didn't
because I
get the
was,
full effect.
I was
know.
boring you and with my review. Okay. There are 4-story residences which are being proposed and along a kind of main street, and those 4-story residences are located 55 feet from each other. And to give you perspective, a parking row, if you go to Kroger, the parking rows there are 62 feet. Normally a parking row is 60 feet wide. So that where car parked, road, car parked is 60 feet. These residences are 4 stories and they're 55 feet apart. A 4-story residence that's 55 feet away from another 4-story residence with a hillside behind one group of those residences, for the most part, will have no views and no daylight. These residences are, in the application that they made for the PUD, are more than twice as tall as what the code allows for Residence C. Again, this is not a critique. These are just the facts of what was submitted on the plans. The driveways for these residences are shorter than what a Mariemont parking code requires. So Mariemont parking code is 9 by 18. The longest of these driveways are 17.5 feet, and then they get shorter from there. They're 16 feet wide, which means they're for 2 cars as they proposed them. They are also not wide enough for a legal Mariemont parking space. In fact, none of these driveways really is large enough for 1 car, much less 2 cars. There's no allowance for guest parking. In the meeting, the developer said that guests could park at the Kroger parking lot or along the Mariemont landing streets. There are no turnarounds on the dead-end streets either. And all the streets are dead-end. There are 2 of them. All the residences have rooftop terraces. There was no lighting study as to how that lighting would affect the residences at the top of the hill, nor was there adequate light level even for the streets in the development. There are no shade trees that are proposed to be planted. There are a few, mostly around the entrance sign, decorative trees, arbor vitae, which most people consider a shrub. And the developer stated in the meeting that there's no room to plant trees because it's too tight, and it would restrict views. The project has no physical connection to Mariemont, and none proposed, and there is, though the developer's website extols the virtues of walkability of Mariemont, the real fact is that you can't walk from this project to school, to any of the Mariemont parks, without having to walk along the sidewalk on Worcester Pike. In other words, you have to leave this, go to Columbia Township, and come back to Mariemont along a sidewalk that's not shoveled in the winter. And there's no walkability within the project either. There's no sidewalks, no paths, no landscaping, no place. Anyway, that's my review of my review. Now, I really wanted to come to council because I have concerns really about the meeting. And the developer said they already had all the approvals that they needed for the project. And they were only there for the PUD because they really wanted to change the way that the deeds would be developed so that a person, rather than buying into a condominium project that has their condominium. And they were told this was the best way to do it, and that's right. But that's why they were there. But as a planning commission member, that my eyes got large when they said we're only here for what they thought was kind of a technical change, I think, because they had all the approvals that were necessary. They had a building permit for the project's first building. That building was 10 feet taller than the code for Residence C allows before they changed their platting. And there were no variances for the 10-foot taller building. And there were, anyway, the chair of the Planning Commission, Bob Van Stone, said there had been no record that they had ever been before the Planning Commission.
And he did look.
I'm just, So, those were concerning to me. Additionally, what was concerning to me is that Ed said, and you tell me if I'm wrong in what I quote you for. I mean, there's not an exact quote, the gist of it. And Ed said that if they didn't have written reviews for the project, they certainly had tacit approvals for the project.
I did say that.
Okay. And so my question is if there are tacit approvals, I would really hope that the Planning Commission could know if we would be informed as to what those tacit approvals are. And I mean, it would be nice to know the source of them, obviously, on the Planning Commission, but if there are tacit approvals, it would certainly make understanding where we are with the project easier. And in fact, Ed, you also said that in your experience that you thought that they had enough information to litigate, implying that you thought, at least this was my impression of what you were saying, was that you thought they had sufficient grounds and they probably would litigate, implying also that if we weren't going to approve it to move forward.
Well, I said we have a very litigious society, Bob, and I think they have worked in a manner that's been very aggressive with us. And what I said is that they've complied with every single request that we've ever made that I knew that our prior administration had ever made. And keep in mind, what I also said is I'm not out here every day. I don't know what goes on when I'm not around.
Yeah.
In the prior administration, I'll be honest with you, I was not asked for my opinion on a lot of stuff in the prior administration. So I just know this law firm, I know the litigators in this law firm, and I know that they would not shy away from engaging in litigation
Right, yeah.
if they don't get this project.
But that was you implied that if it wasn't approved, we probably would get sued.
I did say that,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
I did say that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
But I mean, if they have all these violations to our code, I mean, for it to be approved, you'd have to grant them variances, correct?
PUD is different though, right?
PUD.
Well, a PUD is somewhat different in a planned unit development. I mean, this project technically doesn't qualify for a planned unit development because the acreage is not large enough.
Okay.
It has to minimum 5 acres. I wasn't going to go into those technicalities
Sorry.
to make it brief. And
Sorry.
there are parts of it that setbacks in that you can waive because it is a planned unit. But a planned unit also implies that you're approving the landscaping, the lighting, all of those things that make it a planned unit. But yes, I mean, could be variances, but it was suggested to them that they go for the PUD to avoid the number of variances that would be required to do these 19 individual houses without a PUD. I mean, it's good advice, but still.
Bob, can you
Yep.
summarize?
Yeah. And then, so I wanted to say, as a member of the Planning Commission, that it's difficult for me to understand what the history is, and because of this, the implication that the Planning Commission becomes responsible for whether the village is going to get sued or not. In being put in that position, I'm very uncomfortable about it. Chairman Van Stone did tell the developer that I only had one vote. I guess implying maybe they shouldn't worry too much about it. But nevertheless, I mean, I still feel somewhat uncomfortable being put in that position of hearing that, if they don't get approval, that the village will probably be sued. I know nothing about the history of the project. I gather to say most everybody else on the Planning Commission knows nothing about the history of the project. I could be wrong. I can't speak for all of them, but nobody acted like they really had a history of it. In fact, I think Ed might have the most history of anybody on this
It
project.
is pretty limited, I'll be honest
So,
with you there. And I
yeah.
didn't say the,
But you go back, is what I'm saying, and none of us go back. So, so I'm suggesting that it would maybe more appropriate for the council to take over review of this project and approval, because council has my impression is council has more access to the history of the project, and given the magnitude of it and the sensitivity of it, that it may be above the pay scale of the Planning Commission. I mean, I know it's not Mariemont, it's Arbyville, but quite frankly, I mean, you know, I've spent 50 years of my practice with the Congress of New Urbanism trying to develop, you know, walkable communities and communities that matter. So that's my piece. I'm going to wrap this up. That you know, with the landscape between these houses being literally all paving, flat roof buildings that are similar in appearance to Windsor Square, no trees, no walkability. If those were the attributes that Mary Emery had used for the development of Mariemont, I think it would be a different place. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob.
So, could I
I'm
ask?
going to leave unless there are questions.
Well, I was just curious, where are we with the Planning Commission? To Bob's point about,
Well, he had a number of action items following that
He has a
meeting.
list of action items.
The action items have been sent to the developers, and it's my understanding, I think they only just received those, so they're,
So
I just got the
they've
minutes
been
done.
sent to the developer because, as a member of Planning Commission, I haven't seen what those action items are.
well, it was the list that was compiled the night as we were running, you know, through all of the items,
Right.
especially, a lot of the, probably over half the items have to do with the HOA down there. Remember all the questions that was being asked?
Yes.
And so some of those are very simple answers to get back on.
Yes. But I'm just saying, as a member of the Planning Commission, I have not seen action
The list.
items that have been given to the developer, so I don't know.
Maybe they haven't been given yet, because they're just only being compiled, is that correct?
I just got the minutes done this afternoon.
She just got the minutes done this afternoon,
So,
so we can,
and I'm just saying again, as a member of the Planning
Yeah, I know.
Commission, I have no idea
Okay.
what's being communicated
All right.
to the developer that they're required, if they're required anything.
Well, they have to answer to, so
It's
they're
gonna happen.
compiling a list of actions that they have to
Are you saying you
address
want to
and
see
get
the
back
list
to us.
before we send it to them?
I don't know, have you seen the list?
I have not seen the list,
Okay.
but
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I haven't seen the list
Okay.
either.
So nobody
other
on the
than-
Planning Commission's seen the list?
But
No.
I thought Bob was pretty,
yeah,
He was
he
on
had
top
a.
of it.
Yeah, he's on
yeah.
top of it. It's just that maybe they haven't, although I think, because Joni just now, today, finished the minutes, the compiling of the list, if it's not done, it's within a day of being done, and then we'll circulate it around to everyone.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm only saying that, I don't know where we are.
No, I
because-
understand. No, I get what you're saying.
So,
No, I get it. Yeah. All right, we'll do the list. Yeah.
no more questions of me?
I want to thank you because Kelly and I were at that meeting and I thought some of your questions were, and your concerns were spot on. And, my whole thing was, you know, those developers have stuck with us. I think overall, this is a good thing for Mariemont. This is our property. These will be in our community.
Yeah.
So I think, I hate to be overly optimistic, but I'm certain we can find a compromise.
I will say that as you think about that is the most commonly bought vehicle in America parked in a 19-foot deep driveway, which is 1.5 feet deeper than the driveways that they're proposing.
okay.
So,
Hey, thanks, Bob.
Okay, so next steps after that is just, the next steps go to them. Okay.
and he's aware of what the action items were because he laid them all out. And Bob Van Stone wrote them down, so
Okay.
whatever is on Van Stone's
They just
list,
may not,
I would bet
Totally
were what he
compiled on
brought up in the
paper,
meeting, you know.
we're very close to it.
No, yeah, I'm just,
Okay. All right, any question regarding the bills? No? All right, a motion to pay the bills, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, we'll pay the bills. All right, and now we have two committee reports here tonight. Are we gonna go, we're gonna let them read it?
Hey, I'll read it. I'll read
Yeah, I
it.
think because
Yeah,
It would help.
Tony is sort of,
I'm happy to.
we might be going to the read your own committee report.
Well, we've talked about that. I'm
Yeah, I
totally
know.
good with
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, okay. Well, it looks like, Rob, you could be up first.
Okay, so this is, the Finance Committee met on Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, at 4 PM to discuss the village website contract, which is coming up for renewal. Present at the meeting were Finance Committee members Rob Bartlett, Kelly Rankin, and Marcy Lewis, Mayor Bill Brown, Fiscal Officer Richard Ford, and IT Leader Eli Wendler. Our current website contract is set to expire on November 13th, 2022. eGovLink, who the original contract is with, was acquired by Munition LLC. Munition is proposing a contract extension that will be good until April 1st, 2024. The annual fee for the main website and the recreation website will remain the same at $2,900 and $1,500 respectively. The contract extension will also include a free refresh of both websites. Ms. Wendler shared that she did contact Civic Plus, another website provider who was part of our original RFP, and their costs were significantly more than Munition. Specifically, Civic Plus's recreation website alone would cost $7,800 one time and $4,275 per year ongoing. It would also take us 3 months to transition to their recreation website and 6 months to transition both the main website and the recreation website. The Finance Committee recommends that the village sign the website contract extension with Munition LLC for $4,400 for both websites. Ms. Wendler will lead the refresh process for both websites. Because of the lead time required to complete an RFP and then potentially transition to another website provider, the Finance Committee will also recommends that we reconnect with Ms. Wendler in July 2023 to discuss if we should do a full RFP for both websites before this extension expires in April 2024. Since this is just an extension of a current contract that was previously approved by Council, similar to the Rumpke extension, no legislation is required, and the approval of this report by Council will be sufficient for the mayor to sign the extension. Respectfully submitted, Rob Bartlett, Chair, Marcy Lewis, Vice Chair, Kelly Rankin, Member.
All right, thank you, Rob. All right, you've heard the report. I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion regarding this? It's pretty straightforward. No?
Looks good.
We all good? We all good?
We don't have to
Anything to
vote?
add, Rob?
No?
You're good? Okay, Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, that will be accepted. Marcy?
All right. The Mariemont Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee met on September 26, 2022. Present at the meeting were Committee Chair Marcy Lewis, Vice Chair Leah Geldbaugh, Member Susan Brown Knight, Mayor Bill Brown, Housing Officer Rod Holloway, and Fiscal Officer Richard Ford. The first agenda item was to finalize MPF's demolition ordinance. The purpose of the proposed legislation is to allow the ARB to review and approve any building application forwarded by the building department where there is concern whether the architectural character is at variance with existing structures in the village or the residence is listed as a contributing property on the NHL application. In a previous meeting, Marcy Lewis, Rod Holloway, and MPF members Mary Beth York and Bob Vanstone worked to fine-tune MPF's original proposal specifically with regard to panhandle lots and garage setbacks. These changes were then incorporated into the proposal and it was given to our legal counsel to finalize. The committee unanimously voted to adopt this legislation. In summary, the proposed legislation encompasses changes to sections 151.085, 151.021, 151.025, and 151.026 of Mariemont's Codes of Ordinance. Attached to this report is the original language of Mariemont's code and the recommended changes by section. The legislation is in its entirety is included in the council packet. And so that was available for anybody who wanted to read and see exactly where we were and what we did. And many thanks to Rob Holloway for putting that together. The second agenda item pertained to Mariemont's Code Section 151087, permitted obstructions in required yards, specifically paved for patios and hot tubs. These changes, initiated by Zoning Officer Rob Holloway, allow for more flexibility with paver patios and differentiates between a hot tub and a pool. The committee unanimously voted to adopt the legislation and has been approved by legal counsel in summary. Counsel. In summary, the proposed legislation encompasses changes to sections 151087 and 151005 of Mariemont's Code of Ordinance. Attached to this report is the original language of Mariemont's code and the recommended changes by section. The legislation in its entirety is included in the council packet. The final topic of discussion was in reference to Section 151.01 International Property Maintenance Code and 151075 Historic District. As an aside, you may recall, we had an appeal to council, a decision by the ARB about 16-panel garage doors and what a garage door was defined. This change in legislation is seeking to clarify and make that more simple so that we don't run into this problem again. The change was proposed to, I just said that, okay, sorry. The proposed changes eliminate the contradiction that specifies that 16-panel garage doors are for the historic district, but at the same time, exterior elements are supposed to be consistent with original architectural intent and appropriate for a historical neighborhood. The committee unanimously voted to adopt the legislation. Attached to this report is the original language of Mariemont Code of Ordinances and recommended changes by section. The legislation has been submitted to legal counsel for finalization and will be included in a later packet. Respectfully submitted, Marcy Lewis, Leah Geldbaugh, Susan Brown Knight. That was a lot of work.
Good job, good job. All right, you've heard the report. Do I have a motion and a second to accept?
So moved. Second.
Second. All right, any discussion on this?
Yeah, just a question, clarification. So the first 3 pages, like the second and third pages, are the proposed changes. I was just, because the stuff that's in here about what was approved by MPF Board of Trustees is just FYI?
I didn't include that. Did Rod send that to you?
Yeah, this is from,
That's
it's on MPF
There's
letterhead.
There's even more than, like,
That was his initial letter when he submitted it. It has gone through many reiterations since then, and what you have is the final version.
Right,
And
right, but
I didn't submit that to be included.
okay, because, yeah, no, that's all right. I wanted to make sure I understood. So the second and third page are the changes. The rest is just sort of like information, right?
Yes.
The other ones that are in there? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So just these are the changes, right?
There's just really just page 2 and
And
page
then
3.
this is just all backup from.
Yeah. Yeah, this is background, because it's been kind of,
Because some of it, actually, the other stuff started to refer to actual code book stuff as well, and I wasn't sure which was the proposed changes versus, so that helps.
Well, I mean, some say current, some say proposed. Yeah.
Right, right,
Yeah.
but then the pages after that, it gets into, I just wasn't
Okay,
sure. I wanted to make
sure.
sure I was reading it properly.
Okay.
And one other thing I just wanted to check with Ed on. So if we make the changes to this, should we be making changes to there is a 150.18, the building commissioner? So that was the one that the previous administration passed. That laid out some of the same kind of things, but it has a different definition then. So it feels like this is not in sync with the changes here.
Wasn't a running in,
Here.
is it that big, long one that?
It's not too long.
No, but it was, Bill passed it.
50.1, yeah.
Like-
Yeah, it was like in 2016 or 17, 2016, I think it says on there. So that was the one that got changed before. When it says give the building administrator the power to make all these determinations, but it doesn't bring the ARB into account at all. So, so I just wanted to make sure
I
that they're in
did show
sync.
that to Rod. I mean,
Yeah, no, I was gonna see if Ed's, you don't have to decide right now, Ed, but
Yeah.
I just wanna see
Just
if
take a look.
if we should do
Take a look
things
at-
just to,
Yeah,
you can
it
keep
sounds
that.
like, off
You
the
can
top of my head. Can I keep this?
Yeah, you keep it, you
All right,
keep it.
thanks. Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that because that sometimes happens in the code book. We make one change one place and the other,
Yeah, it doesn't
there's,
quite
it's
jive.
written someplace else, and I want to make sure that the things are consistent.
yeah, I was aware of that, and I did show him, but I don't know if a thorough analysis was
Yeah,
made.
and so Ed was the one who helped draw that up back in 2016.
Yeah, okay.
So I just wanted to raise that. And then I'm assuming when we vote, it'll be just, each one will be voted on separately, the
That's the way we.
pros changes?
Right, yeah, that's how we set it up. Rod sent it to me, Rod prepared all these, and he sent it to me to review, and I said, yeah, it looks great,
Right,
so.
so when we go through these in vote form, I'm assuming we'll just look at each one separately, like
Right.
151.021, 151.026, and stuff
And
like
that's the way you had it intended to, Marcy? Yeah,
Works.
I'm pretty sure that's
Because
what you
there's
did,
there's
yeah.
some elements in here that I do have questions, and there's some areas, some I totally agree with. And there's
Okay.
some I do have questions and want to
Okay.
get your understanding and things like that, but I don't want to tie up tonight's meeting with
Yeah,
that.
you're
It's
talking
just-
about once it's written up.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
we'll vote separately for sure.
Yeah, each
It is all,
change.
it is all written up.
All right, so
And I had intended to vote on that tonight.
Well, but it's
These
gotta be,
changes.
We're not
First
vo-
reading.
you can't,
Yeah, we're not voting on the, we're voting on the report tonight. We're passing the report, then Ed will write the legislation.
I have the legislation included.
Yeah, but
from-
it's first reading for the legislation.
Right.
well, but this actually isn't in the format you have for the first reading for the legislation.
No, there, it is included at the back of the packet as a
It should be in the
resolution.
back.
Oh, it's in the back? Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll
that's
have
what
the
I said
first-
in the report.
Okay.
That's why I said the
And what I
legislation's
would
included in the
suggest,
report.
Because typically, the way we do it, first reading tonight, second reading will be the second council meeting in October. But I think it might be a good idea if you guys sent me an email saying, hey, I have a question about this, or I would like something else changed, and then when we bring it up for the second reading, we can actually interlineate the changes right at that time.
I don't see it in the back.
I don't see it.
I don't see it in the back.
Should be
Because
there.
I didn't,
What, in the resolutions?
here's all
The ordinances, the ordinances.
No, but Ed usually has to draw up a whole separate
I do, and
document that has that called out. So it's not in, you can't have it in the report. Ed has to do a separate document.
I thought
And
we
because
talked
it's an
about
ordinance,
that.
It's different than a resolution, too. This is an ordinance.
this is an ordinance, right, yeah.
But-
Sort of funny, Rod sent me the stuff, and I thought that he had sent the proposed ordinance in, because that's what I
Well, I
saw.
asked that question, and the answer I got made me understand that that is sufficient for us to vote, or to hear the first reading, excuse me.
Yeah, and then, again, usually, Ed, you have it in a different format, because it has the whereas and all that other kind of fun stuff.
Doesn't
that
it
he
have
puts
Yeah, well, I
in
have
legalese
code section
language.
151,
It does.
085, we got that.
It is.
No, but at the very beginning, there's a whole intro he does that sort of talks
Should they
about.
amend the section, whereas council of the village, whereas the building administrator, whereas.
Which one are you looking at?
Yeah.
it's in the back.
Yeah.
It's
It's in the
In
packet.
the very back?
Yeah, well, in the ordinances,
Here,
Oh, okay,
in the ordinances, all the way back.
okay,
Actually,
got it.
So this first one's
Got it.
151021.
that's what happens when you have
Okay,
so many
I see it.
ordinances and
Thank you.
resolutions at the same time. Here, Rob, you got it?
Yeah, I got it now,
Okay,
thank
okay.
you. I always thought the ordinances came before the resolutions usually, but I got it now. So, yep, I agree, Marcy, that stuff is all the stuff that's in there.
Yeah, but like I say, if anybody's got any comments, let's try to get them lined up at least before the second council meeting, so we know what we're gonna change, if in fact we do change it, you know.
But then as we go through these, as written, we are having the first reading on it
Absolutely,
tonight.
yes, sir.
Yes, okay.
So if you got changes next time, you say, hey, I got a discussion, I move to
I've
amend
worked on
it.
this for a long time. I'm comfortable with the way it is, and I've worked with
Well, I know
Ron,
you
and
guys
you've
have,
approved
yeah.
it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else that really needs to be changed.
Okay, so,
It's been tweaked to death.
To accept
And
the
it's better
report.
legislation than
We've
original.
accepted the report.
yeah, we've accepted the report.
And we voted.
Now, no, we're voting now. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, we will pass that report.
And those three things may come off
So
your
what
agenda.
that means is that I should go ahead and prepare the ordinance, which we've already done.
It's already there in the back.
I know, I
We already
understand
have
that, but
this for now.
sometimes we put the cart before the horse, you know what I mean?
025.
All right, moving on to miscellaneous. Beggars Night, again, will be held Monday, October the 31st. That's Monday, October the 31st. It'll be between 6 PM and 8 PM. Hope for good weather. A proposal to change the time of council meetings to 6 instead of 6:30.
Suppose that.
Whose idea was that?
Yeah,
I
why
like
do we have to
6:30
do
better.
that?
Sometimes at 6 o'clock, the traffic from downtown is
Well,
really
it's just a
tough.
proposal for now, we can discuss this.
All right.
Yeah,
When?
we're not, well, we would change it maybe the first part of the year, or
Well, but-
starting with,
Yeah, but when are we gonna discuss it?
oh,
Whether we do it.
Yeah, that's
Well, I-
presupposing.
I just thought maybe we'll discuss it.
Well,
It's
it'd be
gonna
better
hard
to
for
have
Ed to
everybody
get here
here.
on time.
Yeah.
I mean, let's, you know,
yeah,
because
let's have a
Susan,
I
I
can
mean,
make it here by
Susan
6. It's
has
no
one
big
of the,
deal.
you know, more rigorous schedules.
Yeah, it's good.
And I have a lot of flexibility. So
Well,
I,
let's
you know,
wait till Susan's back and get her 2 cents worth on it, okay?
You're right, we could talk about it now.
Okay, the Ohio Ethics Training will be Tuesday, November the 1st. Do we know what it's gonna be, Chief?
I'm
Not yet.
set for maybe another location. We've got 30 people right now that will be here, so we might be a little tight in here, so we
Okay.
may,
Okay.
I'm gonna look at another location.
We'll
I'll
know
let
by
you
the next council meeting, when we can have the location by then.
election day?
Okay.
November 1st.
All right, now we have one or two resolutions tonight.
Okay, are you ready?
Let's,
Okay. This is third reading to authorize consent PID number 110570, County Route Section, Hamilton 5029.
yeah,
So we need a motion in a second.
yeah, I mean, I know this is one of these obscure things, and this was to grant permission to do repair work on the bridge.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You remember?
Yep.
Okay, a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we will pass that one.
Okay. A resolution authorizing an agreement between the Village of Mariemont and the Board of Hamilton County Commissioners relative to the improvement of Hiawatha.
Okay, second reading, any questions? I think we all know what this is.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are-
To reappoint Rick Gibson as Mayor's Court Magistrate for calendar years 2023 and 2024 to set compensation.
All right, everybody good with Mr. Gibson? All right, second reading, we'll have the third reading next week, our next council.
Okay, to confirm the reappointment of Rod Holloway as Village Zoning Officer for calendar years 2023 and 2024 to set compensation.
Okay, again, second reading, I can't begin to tell you how satisfied I am with Mr. Holloway.
He's really good for me to
It's
work with, really.
really working out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, to confirm the reappointment of Edward J. McTighe as Solicitor for the Village of Mariemont for the calendar years 2023 and 2024.
All right, again, second reading, any questions, any
Comments?
comments? I'm more than satisfied, I'm beyond satisfied with Mr. McTighe.
I was just saying that. What's that?
Don't forget that,
I said it's the best job I've ever had. I mean, my rate is substantially lower than my normal rate, I'll tell you, but it's still, I love it out here. I think the people are terrific to work with. I really do.
all right, we'll have the third reading next, council. Peter Wren's next.
To reappoint Peter Wren as a member of the Architectural Review Board for the calendar years 2023 and 2024.
All right, again, second reading. Any comments or questions about Mr. Wren? I find him to be extremely well-educated. He's the chair of the ARB.
Agree. He's great to work with.
Very good
Can
guy.
I just ask one question? And
Sure.
it doesn't have to do with him per se, but I was just wondering if we're, like, a lot of these people, how long they've been on the different committees? Do we want to discuss like term limits on how long you can be on some of these committees? And if we want to, what I was thinking is that we have so many problems getting people on committees that it might be nice to have the people who do have interest, kind of moving them around to different places so that we get new people on to some and spread it around a little bit.
Spread the love.
Spread the love, yes.
Well-
Instead of having the same people on the committees, you know, year after year after year.
The discussion of term limits, obviously, that's a discussion that comes up quite frequently. To be honest with you, I mean, given the difficulty of getting people to fill these positions, we weren't sure if term limiting them off, is going to be advisable. But the idea of sort of rotating around, I mean, that would be kind of up to the individual. I mean, if Peter doesn't want to be on the ARB anymore, but he wanted to be on the planning commission, I mean, I guess he could make that known.
But we do need to have an architect on the ARB. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like a
No,
requirement.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying in general, do we want to think about, not him per se?
No, I'm just
Yeah.
using it as an example.
Yeah.
But, it's something that we can discuss, but, all right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. To reappoint Andrew Seeger, Steve Spooner, Mark Glassmeyer, Jason Brown-Knight, John Fakes, John Morgan as a member of the South 80 Trails, Gardens, and Park Advisory Board for the calendar year 2023.
Okay, those are all second readings, they're all for the South 80 Trails. Any question about any of these gentlemen?
So they're just one-year assignments, huh? I didn't realize.
They are.
Okay.
Okay. To reappoint Barbara Whitaker and Marcy Lewis as voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar years 2023.
All right, again, second reading. Everybody, Marcy, we still happy with our job?
John might beg to differ, but
Pretty sure he's ignoring you.
Yes.
All right, we'll have,
Making fake notes over there.
we'll have the third reading next council.
Okay. To reappoint Mary Beth York, Margaret
Javitt.
Jevick, always Kristen Van Scoy, as a voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar years 2023 and 2024.
Okay. Again, second reading. Any comments about these individuals? I think they're extremely dedicated. I think they do good work. I see them working all the time.
No comment.
Abstain, Randy abstain.
Taking the fifth.
I mean what I just said, so.
He'll be in trouble.
they are extremely dedicated group. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Barb, Larry, Kristen, Mary Beth, I mean, they have really poured their heart and souls into this grant.
Yes,
And
yeah. All right, we'll have the third
we're
reading.
lucky to have them.
Yes, very much so. Next week.
To appoint Larry Gray as a non-voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar years 2023 and 2024.
All right, again, second reading, a third reading next time.
Okay, to appoint Bob Felton and Jason Brownite as a non-voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar year 2023.
Okay, again, second reading, third reading next council.
Okay, to reappoint Brad Lockhart as a non-voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar years 2023 and 2024.
Okay, so,
That's a
that is a
first.
first reading. We'll have second reading next time. He's on for a 2-year? Is that?
Yes.
That's why he's separate then?
I didn't have him the last time.
Time, okay.
Okay, to reappoint Scott Hamlin, Stan Baylor, and Lynn Tumler to the Audit Committee for the calendar years 2023 and 2024.
Okay, second reading, third reading next time. All right, that does it for the resolutions. What do you know?
Okay.
Ordinances?
Okay. To amend Section 151.021 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances pertaining to permits, certificates, and fees.
All right, first reading, second reading next council.
To amend Section 151.085 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances pertaining to building height, yard, and court regulations.
Okay, first reading, second reading next council.
Oops. 2, amend Section 151.026 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances pertaining to basic data package.
Okay, again, first reading, second reading next council.
Okay, to amend Section 151.025 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances pertaining to powers and duties of the Architectural Review Board.
First reading, second reading next council.
To amend Section 151.087 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances pertaining to permitted obstructions in required yards and related definitions, Section 151.005 regarding hot tub and spa.
All right, first reading, second reading next council. All right, wrapping up here quickly, we run the task list. Anyone, are we doing is it the task, or are we doing the?
No,
No.
Second meeting of the month.
the committees.
Committees.
We're doing
Does
like-
anybody have a verbal that they want to give?
That's
Yep.
right, I do want to verify that. I just want to say, as far as the mowing leaves, John has given us a good update, so I think we all kind of know where we're headed with that. Just to clarify, John, you had mentioned earlier that you were going to have Allison put a blast in the town crier on the website and do the email distribution. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else make a comment?
No?
Committees? Yeah, I have one last comment, and Chris, this kind of involves you just the teeniest bit. It seems as though there was possibly a little lack of good communication regarding the last alignment meeting for the bike path. the one that I attended at the church, at the community church.
Right.
Now, help me understand here just quickly, are we doing those alignment studies by segment of the, we sort of did the segment from, I guess, from the Daniel Short Park through Murray, and then, the apartment buildings and houses that are along those streets?
So no, it was by focus group. So originally I had the focus group for the trail users, kind of like the users group. It would be athletic people, the schools, and Fleet Feet down there. We talked to them. Great Parks was part of it. So the one that was last week was the property owners that the trail would basically go across their front yard or in their backyard.
But we haven't picked it. How can that be when we haven't picked a path for the trail?
So we talked about both alignments with those groups. So
We
the
were,
meeting
they
on
talked all
Wednesday-
options, they weren't
Yeah.
talking a single option.
We ran through A, which was the no build, B, which was through the center of town,
Right,
and then
Okay.
C, which was
Yeah.
the northern
Yeah.
alignment. Most of the comments for that group were about the northern alignment.
Right, but my only thought here was, it just seemed to me that, I mean, literally, there were 6 people there. And I did some checking with Joni, I'm not sure this information went out on the website. How did this information go out to tell people?
No, it was all by email. We went through the
I'll
property lists from the Hamilton County Auditor site and picked names from that, and then tried to get information through the Mariemont, directory. Some people we still didn't have email addresses for, and then try to put it together. Not everybody could make the time we chose. We had 3 options, and most people could make the one we picked, and that was it.
Well, you have to say though, because I live on that street, and you didn't hit everybody's house that has it going through their front yard. And there's the people that are on the other side of the street, like where I live.
Right.
Nobody was given the time or dates or anything. So there's a lot of very angry people now that they feel like this is being pushed through without their consent, without their knowing anything about it. It's not, like, just from their perspective, it's like you're trying to put one over on them. And I think we really need to figure out a way to include everyone. The other comment that I had was, why was Rick Greiwe there? He's not a member of the community. And from what I understand, he's basically made some comments that were not well received about the fact that he's paying for the study and he's gonna put it where he wants it. That's from what he was saying. I talked to, we have to be really careful, because I have been talking about this for years, and I have still, and I don't want to get into it too much, but I really want to know any community, because like I've said, I've been asking about this for years, where the path goes through someone's front yard. I want an example of what happens to that property value and what they're tasked with doing. And no one has ever been able to give me that. And it really, it's just, you're asking homeowners to really change their lifestyles. When they back out of their driveways, they're gonna have to stop at the bike path, check to make sure no one's there, cross the bike path, and then stop again at the street. And it's a little bit scary to think about, but and sending them, like I said before, sending them through Plainville Road and Miami, it's a scary proposition. And we need to make sure that the residents that are gonna have to deal with this, and one gentleman I talked to is like, what if I wanna sell, I'm not gonna be able to sell my house. This could affect being able, my ability to sell my house. So this is all stuff that we can't just, we have got to make sure everyone in the village knows about this.
I didn't know about it, and it's my committee. How's that?
Well, and I didn't know, and I lived there. Rob didn't know about it. It was not on the website because a couple of people looked for it.
Chris, may I ask a question? The meeting was set up by Dave Meyer,
The
right?
consultant, yeah.
The consultant, okay.
Plungers.
So, right.
Yeah.
So maybe there's just a better way, I don't know where the oversight was on the other people in Murray, maybe they didn't have a way to, but maybe I suggest that there's another focus group meeting, basically with the same group, but everybody, maybe putting a note, I mean, there's not email addresses to send out an invite, maybe a note on the door,
There
or,
will be another public involvement meeting
okay.
announced and done, just like the August 1st, September 1st,
Okay.
whenever we had it.
All right.
There will be
Yeah,
another
in
one of
school.
those. So yeah, we're not done with this by any means.
Sure, and I know the route hasn't been chosen out by any manner of means, but to Leah's point about getting the feedback.
The word out.
I mean, my impression was an oversight,
Mhm.
so, but maybe
We just need to do a little better work, you know, as we approach the meeting to make sure that, you know, we think that you're sending out emails or you're doing this and putting it on the website, but, you know, you thought that's what I was doing, and then it doesn't get done.
Yeah, I think there was a little
Well,
confusion about who.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to have a paper letter, like, you know, I mean, all the houses on the Warrior Run got a notice?
Right.
You know, I mean,
Well,
I mean, it
Yeah,
can't
I'm-
hurt,
I'm-
it's not that many houses. I
there
mean,
aren't that many
If you want me to
houses.
walk them around, I'll walk them
I'll
around.
volunteer myself to, well, with help.
So,
Help you?
I'll walk, I'll do
so
it.
tomorrow afternoon at 2 PM, we've got a meeting set up with the business community. So only 5, I think, of the 12 businesses that we've contacted can make it. But that's at 2 PM tomorrow at the Community Church Center. So, you know, if you want, I can get the more details to
Okay,
you.
now,
and
so
send it
so
to
you're
you
telling me,
tonight.
see, right there, you're telling me tomorrow, you have a meeting set up with the business leaders tomorrow at 2 PM. I'm just hearing it now.
I know. So the problem is, you guys want the study done by November 1st, right?
That was the hearing.
So now the consultant is trying to race to meet that deadline. So this
I
is what
get
we're
that,
faced
but
with.
it's like, man, notification's gotta be better. You know, like,
Well, I can understand that you're trying to have a focus group with the business, but you're just letting other folks know, because, right, you want to talk just to the business. You're having one group for the Murray residents, another one that's more for the business and stuff like that.
yeah,
Is
but,
there
But
anything
but
that you can
you
send
know,
to us?
other people need to be
You
involved.
can
or-
send out from the office? Okay.
But I think we need to be careful, Bill, too, about, again, if you tell the whole village, it's like, well, if it's for Murray residents, a focus group for them, it's like, well, you can have everybody coming to it. It's like, well, you might lose what you're trying to achieve. Same thing with the business. So I think we need to be balancing that stuff to say, okay, if there's specific groups that we're trying to get input from.
But if you only have 5 businesses going, that's not, you're not even getting.
Well, they've
a good
reached out to 'em all.
cross-section.
I mean-
No, I know, but you did, but, I mean, what's the point of the meeting if only 5?
And you said,
5
Well,
people,
do we, I mean,
know.
if I can't get a
You
critical mass,
You said 12, or, I mean, we have more than 12 businesses.
I'll have to, yeah, that's an estimation on my part. I need to get the actual list and share it with you. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I
mean,
know not
the list that
everybody's gonna
we've
come.
come-
yeah, but I think he meant along the
Oh,
route,
affected,
mainly
okay.
along the affected route that would come.
Okay,
yeah.
Once
sorry.
again, right, if
There
we're going
there
through.
aren't any businesses on a
No,
couple
but
of
the one that goes through
So
the village.
but I'm just, what I'm saying is like, this seems,
But we're talking about a spur line.
No, I know,
looking
but
down, go
it-
on. Yeah, I know.
you're gonna talk about all the routes. You're not gonna just say the
Yeah.
the
Yes.
one on Worcester, and you're gonna say, because really, the one, if you put it on Murray, it's gonna have no effect on businesses.
No, but
And
they,
maybe that's
So,
the
they
yeah.
want it.
feedback,
So
is
that-
if they
yeah,
don't want
but-
it,
yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
No.
We're just trying to talk to everybody in a smaller group so we can get their feedback.
Not have some huge public meeting where everybody talks over each other and you get no real good information out of it.
Right.
And I certainly understand the point behind having these focus group meetings.
Yeah, but let's at least try to get the elements, you know, the intended group
Sure.
notified that they're having the meeting. I mean, that's my only complaint here, is it just, we have to do better about that. And if it means I have to walk them around myself, I'll do it.
All right.
Okay, all right, I didn't mean you.
No, it's all right, it's all right.
All right, we good?
Very good. Oh, boy. Good job.